Today, I'm going to show you a really cool new trick that you can do within Power Virtual Agents with the recent refresh on Generative Answers. So what we're going to do today is I'm actually going to use ServiceNow as a example of how I can go and take a custom index or any type of index that's available, and then I can query that and then take those query results and pass it in to Generative Answers to be able to provide back a summarization and an answer back using like a GPT model to be able to come back and simply answer the question over a different knowledge store. And this can be anything that's indexed at this point. So, and I'm going to show you how to do this. It's definitely got a little bit of complication with it, but hang with me in the video and you'll get to see something really cool that many people will find a lot of value in. Okay, so to get started, what you'll do is you'll create a new bot inside of PVA. And for this, I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call it ServiceNow KB. Just so that way it's a ServiceNow knowledge-based bot that we're going to do. And over here, you can put any URL you want. We'll just do servicenow.com. And then when you go, I would encourage you to go ahead and go in here and uncheck your lesson topics. I'll give it a corporate icon and such. And if you need to make any changes, like what solution you want it in or whatever, you can do that, or any type of schema. But once we've done this, what you'll see is I'm just going to hit create. All right. Once your bot is created, know that you need to keep an eye on this settings tab here, because this will let you know once all of the backend is all provisioned for you. So we'll wait for that to light up here. Okay, so now our settings are lit up. So we now know that our bot is ready to edit. You'll notice that if we come into the AI capabilities tab, that it created the system topic. Now, if you haven't had your system topic already created, you've already got an existing bot, just know that what this is doing is if you go into the topics, you'll see that system has 9. And one of the ones that's here now is this conversational boosting topic. So notice that that's triggered on an unknown intent so that you have this conversational booking component. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take this and know that I've already created and I have a knowledge management or knowledge bases inside of ServiceNow. And you can see here, we've got some IT content and such. So what we want to do is you're going to need to know about the ServiceNow REST API. So inside of ServiceNow, and it's a really important that you pay attention because this burned me pretty good, is that the API is not enabled by default. You actually have to go get this particular plugin right here, which is the SN_KM_API plugin. Make sure you activate that in your plugins on your product for ServiceNow. Now, what that will do is it'll open up this API. And if we look at this API, you'll see that what you can do with it, if we kind of scroll down in here, is you're going to find that this is all the documentation on how to use this over HTTP. And one of the things that you'll see is it can return a result here that gives you all the information off of a query set. And the way that you do that is you actually just pass through a query to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back over to our bot now that we've created it, and we're going to open up the conversational boost component. Now that we're in this is what this looks like by default. And one of the big benefits with PVA with the latest release is we're doing a lot to be able to make it where you can do whatever it is that you would like to do to the system topic. So being able to do things ahead of the generative response is sort of a key thing here for us. So we're going to want to take and pass in some different components. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we're going to do things before we actually call generative actions. So the thing I want to do first is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add in to call an action. Now, what action am I going to call? I'm going to call this Power Automate flow that I've created here. And what you're going to want to pass into it is you're going to want to pass in a system variable, which is called activity.txt or activity.text. Now, what activity.text is it's what you said to the bot when someone typed it in, and you're just passing everything that someone said directly in. Now, what am I actually doing on this Power Automate flow? Let's take a look at that Power Automate flow. Well, in this Power Automate flow, what I'm doing is I'm taking the question and I'm as an input, and that's what you see that I'm going to take activity.txt and pass it in to this. Now, once I've done that, you're going to see that you're going to do an HTTP request. And the HTTP request, you'll need to get this URL, and it'll have your particular instance in. So you'll see this here, and you should use this exact query that they have. Now, where did I get this query? I got this query by simply going into the API documentation. And if you scroll down, it will be right here. You'll see it right here. And know that what we found is that you don't need the class name or the system class name. All you need to do is grab it to short description. So if you grab that, that will give you the API query that you really need to be able to pass. Now, notice that query right here is sort of the key, the query, and then this says Windows. That means that they just passed a query of Windows to it. In the case of this, we're going to be passing activity.txt into the query. So let's go back and look at this. So how did we pull this off? Well, what we did is we put the URL with all the information. And notice here that we've got a limit of 2. If you want to have more results returned, let's say that I want the limit to be 5. I can just simply make that change right here, and I've been able to now get up to 5. The default, if you pull limit completely out, is 30 on this particular API, but just so you know that that's there. Okay, second thing you need to do is you need to put in the queries, you need to put query, because that will generate the query string up here into your URL, and you're going to pass in the question in. Now, once you've got that, I'm using basic authentication. This will be blurred out so you can't see my credentials. And then all you're doing then is we're going to do a quick close of that. And let's take a look at this initialize a variable. So you should initialize a variable, and then you need to pass in some information into a value. So let's look at what I'm actually doing. What I'm doing in this case is, if you look at the dynamic content component, you'll need to move to expression. You'll put JSON and then open the brackets, so that this way what we're going to do is we're going to get JSON, we're going to convert it to into a string, and the body is going to be what we want to pass in. So we're basically taking this and making it so that we have a JSON variable with a string that's coming from the body from the HTTP query. And so now we've got our value. We turn around, we pass the variable in as like SN answer, and then that's what we're going to be using on the back end on the PVA side. So this is where you see it already created this. I've got the string. So now at this point, I've passed in a query to it, and it's going to return me back the actual results in JSON. So the next step is we need to make sure that with Power Virtual Agents, if you go back into one of our other videos, you'll see that now we have this ability to actually parse JSON. So if you go into variable management, you'll see parse value. So in this, what I need to do is I need to come in and I need to do this ServiceNow answer that we got from before. And we're going to take that information. What we're then going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to say, okay, we need to get an example of the response that comes back from this query. Now, how can I get that? The way that you get it is you can come in here and you can actually run a query or get a test query out of this if you'd like. I've got like a sample here on something I've used recently. We can go run it and you can get your sample query. You can also go through and do this through other mechanisms. But once you come in and you get the query return value, just know that you've got the information right here on everything that it's going to return. So you can just take this as an example, and I can just, you just do a Control A and Control C. I know copy and paste isn't working in this interface, but that's fine. Then what you can do is on your data type, you do from sample data, take this in, drop it in. You've got yourself the information for the schema, and then you just need to say, where do you want to save this off? So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable, and that variable, I'm just going to call it, we'll just call it ServiceNow results. And notice here, it comes back as a record. So now that we've done that, the next step for us is that we're going to need to we're basically going to need to take this and do some manipulation to it. So we're going to set a new variable. And in this, what we want to do is we want to actually format this. So what we want to do is set this variable. We're going to create a new variable. And this variable, what I want to call it is I want to call it formatted search results. Okay. Now that we've got that, we're going to go in and we're going to need to do something with the value. And in this case, we're going to need to do a PowerFX formula. And just for simplicity, I'm going to copy this over and then we'll look at it together just so that way you can kind of see it. So what you do is you go to formula here, make a big window, you're going to need it. And then what we want to do is take a look at what we've got here. So what we're doing is we're saying for all of the rows that are all of the pieces that have been returned, what we're wanting to do is we want to go get the topic that ServiceNow results and the articles that are inside of that, which is the structure within the JSON. Then we want to take this and we want to do some concatenation and store this in a certain way. So we're going to basically create a table. And in that table, what we need to do is we need to have content and we need content location. Now, this is something that the Generative Answers node is going to need for us to be able to pass it the search results in. It expects it in a table with two columns, one called content and one called content location. So for the content, we want to concatenate the title, put like a dash, and then provide the snippet. And that snippet is from the article. So basically, you'll have this come in. Then the second thing is you want to be able to give it the reference link to where it's from. So in this case, if you go into your Knowledgebase article and you look it up, what you'll see is that this is the first part of what you would need to have to be able to pull up the article. So when you, and the best way to see this is that if you go into an article itself, like if I go into this article and we look at the URL, you'll see it right here, that this is how you're going to need it. Now, the actual number is the inside of the payload from ServiceNow when we get this back. So you'll need to make sure you understand the payload that's coming back. But what this is going to do is basically it's the knowledge base number so that we can format the URL so that you have a link as a reference that you're going to be passing in to the GPT query. Now, what this is going to do, it's going to do it for every single one of them that's returned. So if I have 5 results, I have 2 results, doesn't matter. It's going to create that, and all of that will be passed to the generative answers node. All right. So once we do this, we'll just say insert. And now that we've got this, we've now pushed this in here. So now that we've done that, we've done all the work to get the query and the index results, search results from ServiceNow. Everything's already taken care of. So now the question is, how do we actually go further? Like, how do I pass this into the actual node itself for the generative answers? Because if we look at our data source currently, our data source is ServiceNow. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this out because I don't actually want it to be that. But you'll see that there's this new custom data component. And if I go into the custom data component, and this is, all I need to put in here is I just need to put in topic dot formatted search results, because that's what we got from here. So now what you've done is you're providing the table in the correct format in from that variable from here. And so now that we've done this and we've got this variable that's set with a value, now we've passed this in and we have everything that we need. So all we need to do now is just save. And now that we've got this saved, it's as simple as let's ask it a question. I'm just going to ask it a question that I know from my knowledge base. And what I'm going to do is, what is the Windows key for a keyboard? And what you're going to see happen is now it's going to go through. You can actually see on the right where it's passing all the information in and going to Power Automate and getting an answer back from the GPT model. And so now what I've done is shown you how to be able to build from start to finish an entire implementation off of a custom index search result using ServiceNow as an example. Now you can do more with this. You can start looking at how you want to optimize your queries and things of that nature. You definitely need to understand the API that you're calling and what is in the search result return and making sure that you're passing that through. But as long as you have if you have a custom indexed piece of data, you'll be able to actually take that and pass that directly into generative answers. No need to stand up models and things of that nature, but you also get the benefit of being able to come in and even setting the different content moderation levels and being able to use that to help modify how you handle and filter back results. So hopefully this was a very informative video. I hope that you will subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you provide any type of feedback you might want in the comments, and definitely we'll be showing more and more capabilities coming in future videos. Thanks. Have a great day. So the last part is we're going to wire this up and be able to pass in the information so that the generative answers will get it get this instead of going to the website. So the first thing we'll do is we'll delete out the ServiceNow. Then the next part that we need to do is there's this custom data component. And with the custom data component, if you click on this, you'll see that you'll get a piece of information here that's showing that you want to do Power FX. Now, what we want to put in here is we want to put in the topic dot formatted search results, because as you can see here, that will give it the table that we wanted from before. So now that we've done that, we should be able to save.